If you're someone who likes to have the most kills on the scoreboard at the end of an activity, then this build is perfect for you. The whole thing kicks off with our first aspect, Feed the Void. Feed the Void grants us Devour on any ability kill for a maximum of 10 seconds, which will then be extended by 5 seconds on any final blow while we have Devour. Additionally, our Devour will be enhanced so that every final blow will fully refresh our health and refund 15 to 40% of our grenade energy depending on the tier of the enemy killed. From this, we have a ton of survivability and sustain as long as we maintain our Devour buff, and we actually have several ways that we can kick off this Devour acquisition. In our grenade slot, our selection of Vortex Grenade is our best way of starting our Devour chain, and it has several key interactions with many other parts of this build that we'll get to later in the video. And because of our first fragment, the Facet of Dominance, our Vortex Grenade will also be applying the Weaken debuff to all enemies within it for up to 9 seconds. Additionally, with the seasonal artifact mod Expanding Abyss, this Weaken effect will be strengthened from the normal 15% up to 25% for all void damage we deal. As a result, our Vortex Grenade is one of the main tenets of strength in this build, and to play into it even more with extra damage and extra uptime, we are of course going to be taking advantage of the Warlock exotic class item, Solipsism. Yes, this does require you to complete the Dual Destiny exotic mission, which requires a teammate to run, but that's not a problem when you can find thousands of players using the LFG channel in my Discord server, linked in the description below. As far as the specific roles that you want to be shooting for on the exotic class item, the two best perk options for the first column are either the Spirit of Osmiomancy or the Spirit of Inmost Light. Both of these give us a ton of grenade energy, with Osmiomancy activating every second that our vortex is dealing damage, resulting in about 75% of our grenade back from that alone, with the rest of it coming back to us through Devour procs on kills. Our other choice of Inmost Light will give us the Empowered Abilities buff for 5 seconds whenever we use a different ability, stacking up to 2 times and multiplicatively speeding up our ability regeneration. While this does have the benefit of also granting us melee and class ability energy, I generally prefer Osmiomancy for faster grenades and so that you don't have to focus on keeping your empowered abilities chain going. Nonetheless, if you do get a roll with Inmost Light, it'll do perfectly fine until you eventually stumble upon an Osmiomancy class item roll. For the second column of Solipsism, my preferred choices are the Spirit of Verity or the Spirit of Star Eaters. As you'll see soon, we're going to be using void weapons to take advantage of that Expanding Abyss bonus debuff, which allows us to stack up death throws up to 5 times from Spirit of Verity on every void weapon kill. Now, while this is extremely potent, literally doubling the damage of our Vortex Grenades, it can be a little hard to maintain with the requirement of void weapon kills in higher level content. As a result, my preferred choice is the Spirit of Star Eater in order to turn our Nova Bomb super into one of the highest damage supers in the entire game. After our super is full, picking up an Orb of Power will grant us a stack of Feast of Light, granting us 70% bonus super damage at 6 stacks. When you couple this with Nova Bomb's surprisingly impactful buff this season and the Expanding Abyss mod, your Nova will be hitting well over 1 million damage on Void Surge weeks, even more than a Needle Storm or a Celestial Nighthawk. And what makes this build even stronger is the fact that in addition to our extreme single target damage, we can also take advantage of another artifact mod for some absurd AoE damage. Our melee ability choice of Arcane Needle has the important effect of unraveling any target that it hits, which will spawn a Tangle upon killing that unraveled target with a 10-second spawn cooldown. While Tangles have always been good, Threaded Blast triples their damage and more than doubles their range, turning them into strand nuclear bombs whenever they are destroyed with a strand weapon. With this setup, Tangles will be one-shotting red bars even in contest mode activities, along with a heavy burst of damage to tankier enemies. It's also important to remember that because we have 3 charges of Arcane Needle, and Arcane Needle recharges twice as fast when you have 2 charges of it stored, using our melee every 10 seconds to spawn a Tangle will ensure we always have it ready with some of our armor mods that I'll get to in a moment. Additionally, because a final blow with Arcane Needle will activate Devour, all the enemies we kill with the Tangle will be instantly refilling our grenade, even if we just used it. Now, in order to take advantage of the Threaded Blast seasonal artifact mod, we'll be using the best strand weapon in the entire game at the current moment, the Call Rocket Sidearm. This strand rocket sidearm is amazing for one-shotting red and orange bar enemies, as well as absolutely destroying anything that's tankier. With lead from gold along with a heavy ammo finder, this weapon will be generating ammo not only for your heavy weapon of choice, but also a ton for itself. In fact, in gameplay, I never really noticed a situation where I ran out of ammo using this weapon, despite the fact that it uses special ammo. In the second column of the weapon, I personally recommend Desperate Measures for 30% bonus damage after an ability kill, or One for All for 35% bonus damage after hitting 3 different targets. With all of the core components of our build established, we can get to our second aspect, Hellion, for the surprising high damage Solar Buddy whenever we use our class ability. While Bleak Watcher is a very popular choice right now, it's not particularly necessary in a world where this build is going to murder everything long before a stasis turret could fire enough bolts to freeze it. Furthermore, with our class ability selection of Phoenix Dive having a very low cooldown, we'll be able to have our Hellion up whenever we want it, enabling some extra AoE damage and another method of reactivating Devour if we ever lose our grenade. Now, as we mentioned before with the first fragment slot, the Facet of Dominance will provide our Vortex Grenade the 25% weaken debuff. But what's crazier is that this fragment also provides this weakening effect to our Transcendence Grenade Freezing Singularity. In a lot of builds, Transcendence becomes a bit of an oversight, with the 2 meters being tough to fill up simultaneously. But with this build, you actually have an insane amount of Transcendence generation for both light and dark, with your Vortex Grenades and Tangle Detonations respectively. Whenever you have Transcendence available, you should be popping it for an improved grenade and a full refill on all 3 of your Arcane Needle charges, as well as the bonus damage and 20% damage resistance that Transcendence has always had. In order to stack this damage resistance even higher though, in Fragment Slot 2, we are taking the Facet of Protection, which gives us an additional 15% damage resistance whenever we're near enemies. In Fragment Slot number 3, we have the Facet of Purpose, which grants us Void Overshield whenever we pick up an Orb of Power because of our Void super choice in Nova Bomb. While this does give us some extra health and 50% damage resistance, we're mainly using this to maintain more uptime on another seasonal artifact mod, Shield Crush, which grants us 25% more grenade damage and recharge whenever we have Void Overshield. It also grants the same benefits to our melee ability whenever we have the Radiant buff. And by using the Radiant Orbs artifact mod, as long as we're making and scavenging Orbs of Power, we'll have both the grenade and melee buff portions of Shield Crush permanently active. In Fragment Slot number 4, we have the Facet of Courage, granting us a 10% damage boost to all of our light abilities against targets afflicted by darkness debuffs, such as the Unravel from our Arcane Needle or the Slow from our Transcendence Grenade. This also stacks with the Shield Crush buff to make our grenades even stronger, and takes our Nova Bomb to unbelievable levels of damage. In our final fragment slot, we'll be taking the Facet of Bravery, which grants us volatile rounds to our Void weapons on grenade kills, and unraveling rounds to our Strand weapons on melee kills. This synergizes perfectly with our Strand Void build, and significantly strengthens the AoE of both the Call and our other weapons. Speaking of which, for our Void energy weapon, the Funnel Web is my current choice, as its 900 RPM fire rate works very well for applying and detonating volatile rounds that it receives from the Facet of Bravery. The newly re-added Recluse can also be a fantastic option for this slot. If you're not using an exotic heavy weapon, then Graviton Lance can be another excellent option that also has some good range. In the heavy slot, Edge Transit remains the premier DPS option, with Envious or Cascade along with Bait and Switch, with Falling Guillotine being another great option for movement with Eager Edge. I've also been loving the new exotic Microcosm for the Dual Destiny mission, but at the end of the day, it's dealer's choice for your heavy slot. For your stat priorities, you'll always want to make sure that Resilience is the first stat to hit tier 10 for the damage resistance buff, with Recovery and Strength being the second most important stats to get the shortest possible cooldown on our Phoenix Dive and Arcane Needle. Lastly, some Discipline can be nice, but isn't usually necessary with the crazy amount of grenade energy refunds we have with this build through Devour and Osmiomancy, making me urge you towards Intellect as your fourth stat pick. As far as armor mods go, beginning on the helmet, you'll want to make sure you have a Harmonic Siphon mod to create orbs on Void Weapon multi-kills, Ashes to Assets to get loads of bonus super energy on all of the grenade final blows you'll be getting, and Heavy Ammo Finder to keep your ammo counts high on both your heavy weapon of choice and the Call sidearm thanks to Lead from Gold. For the gauntlets, a Firepower mod helps ensure we keep uptime on our Orb of Power related effects, along with 2 copies of Momentum Transfer to give us a lot of melee energy from every grenade that we throw. On the chest piece, we're going with 3 damage resistance mods, with 1 always being Concussive Dampener and 2 being elemental resistance mods that you can change based on the damage type of the enemies that you are fighting. Down on the boots, you'll want 2 weapon surge mods matching the element of your heavy ammo weapon, alongside a scavenger mod doing the same. Lastly, on the class item, we'll go with Reaper to generate extra orbs of power when landing weapon final blows after class ability cast, Powerful Attraction to scoop up all nearby orbs with that same use, and Outreach for a little bit of melee energy, also on that Phoenix Dive activation. With this, you've now mastered the core knowledge behind one of the best ad-clearing Warlock builds in the entire game. All that's left to do is check out the written guide in the Mobalytics link down below, inside of which I have also included a Destiny Item Manager link that you can use to automatically equip all of this to your Guardian with just a few clicks. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the build video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.